Hi everyone, and welcome to Grammar episode 27. Now today we're talking about the past, how to talk about the past in the correct way. And we have 6 grammar tenses altogether that talk about the past. And today I'm going to help you understand the differences between them. So we're going to look at past simple, I did, past continuous or past progressive if you know it in that way, I was doing, past perfect, I had done, I had been doing, and present perfect, I have done, I have been doing. Now, before we go into the differences, there are some videos on my YouTube channel that you should have a little look at first. My video about statements, Grammar 15, my ED spelling for the past tense and past participle, and my ED pronunciation, and my verb tense formulas, my verb tense signal words, and my irregular verbs video. So these will help you because I won't talk about these things today, but they're linked to everything that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so rewatch those videos just to remember. Okay, they give you a few more details that I won't give you today. All right, let's begin. Now we'll start with the past simple, which is the basis of the past. So all other grammar tenses tend to be compared to past simple. And this is the one that everyone seems to use mostly, but it shouldn't be. Let's have a look at what it is. First of all, the past simple formula is I did something. Did is the past tense of do, which is an irregular verb. But if it's a regular normal verb, you just add ed, like work, worked, play, played. But as you can see, the past simple has no link to the present whatsoever in my timeline. So remember this timeline and the way that you see 3 consecutive actions here in the past. Remember that as I explain when we use past simple. Now, first of all, past simple is something that finished, and we have a time period. You usually say when the action happened. So it could be a short action, it could be a habit or routine, it could be a finished statement, it could be some kind of repetition in the past, like how much or how many of something you have done. Or it could be chronological past actions, actions that happened in sequence. So first I did this, then I did that, then I did that, then I did that. So in a story, when you talk about consecutive actions, actions that happen in the correct order, and your timeline moves forward, that's when you would use past simple. Now we can also use past simple without a time period when we talk about dead famous people or famous events from the past. Dead famous people, I'm thinking of someone like Hitler, for example, bad man, but very famous, or Shakespeare, or Albert Einstein. They're all dead famous people. I wouldn't really use past simple for someone who's alive. Or famous events like World War I, World War II. So these things don't need a time period because they're obvious. We can Google them. If you can Google something, it's obvious that you know the time period. But remember, there is no link to the present whatsoever. So if something happened in the past and it's kind of important now, you wouldn't really use past simple, and I'll show you later what you can use instead of past simple for this, okay? So remember, something finished, whether it's a statement or a repetition or a short action or a habit or a routine, and you know when it happened and you say when it happened, okay? Very important. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about past continuous or past progressive if you know it in that way. Now, past progressive or past continuous is structured as I was doing something. You were doing something, I was doing something. And you'll notice again on my timeline, it doesn't touch the present. But there are some long lines on my timeline and a very sharp interruption. Let me explain what this is. Now, first of all, like past simple, past continuous is also finished. So there's no link to the present, but it's a finished action that was in progress at a specific time in the past. For example, at 5 o'clock yesterday, I was eating my dinner. So I started earlier and finished after, but at 5 o'clock, I was already eating. So an action was already in progress at a specific point in the past. Or simultaneous past actions, actions that happened at the same time. So not like past simple where one action happened and then another action happened and then another one and then another one. This one happened at the same time as another one. So I was speaking and you were listening at the same time. But if I say I spoke, which is past simple, and then you listened, it means I stopped speaking and then you listen. So here it's the opposite of past simple. Actions happened at the same time in the past. Or you just have a long action with some duration. So I was talking on the telephone for 5 minutes last night. Or I have background information to a story. For example, the weather, people's clothing. So I saw Maria yesterday, past simple, but she was wearing a beautiful dress. She was wearing this dress for a long period of time. So that shows duration, background information to my story. So I use past continuous. Or I can say the sun was shining all day yesterday. It was raining last night. This shows continuity, duration. Now I can also use past continuous to talk about an interruption. So for example, while I was walking, long action, or as I was walking, long action, interruption, I fell down. So the interruption is with past simple because it's short, but the long action is with past continuous. Once again, you'll notice there is no link to the present. Let's move on. Now, past perfect simple. I had done something. Now, you'll notice that in red, I have one action, and in black, another one. So I've got two actions in the past, but none of them link to the present. And you'll see there is some kind of connection. Let's have a look and see what this is. Now, past perfect is just used to show that one action happened before another action in the past. Now, it's not very popular. We don't use it a lot outside of the business world, but you can use it in a story when you want to jump back in time. So if you're going backwards instead of forwards in your story, then you would use past perfect. Now, let me give you a small example. Yesterday, I went to the supermarket. I walked through the aisles and I picked up some products. All of this is chronological, so I use past simple, right? When I got to the cashier, I realized I had forgotten to bring my purse. Now, I had forgotten before I even went to the supermarket, before I even went to the cashier. Therefore, I have to use past perfect to show that it happened before all the other actions that I mentioned in my story. And for this reason, you can't use past perfect by itself. You have to use past simple with it. So in a story, you can't just say, I had done something. Well, so what? You had done it before what? Okay, so you need to have at least two actions and one has to be past simple in the actual story. Okay, so that's very important. But you'll also notice there is no link to the present once again. Now let's move on. Past perfect continuous. Now, past perfect continuous, as you can see, is the same, but I say I had been doing something. It's the same as past perfect simple, but you see there's a little squiggle here. This is just to show how long the past perfect action had been continuing before past simple happened. So for example, yesterday, I had been waiting for 1 hour before my bus finally arrived. So for 1 hour, I just tell you how long I had been waiting. Okay, so past perfect simple, I had waited for my bus before it arrived. Past perfect continuous, I had been waiting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes before it finally arrived. Now again, there's no link to the present. Let's go to my favorite grammar tense now, present perfect simple. Now this is my favorite because, have a look, it's the only grammar that can link the past to the present. Now let me show you what I mean. I have done something. Now, present perfect simple is perhaps my favorite because you can talk about an action that finished any time in the past, by the way, and you don't say when, so it's nobody's business when this action happened. Maybe you don't know when it happened. Maybe you don't want to say when it happened. The important thing is that it happened. Okay, so you don't say when this action happened or when this action finished. And there's a clear link or effect to the present. So there's some kind of link to the present, some kind of effect on the present, some kind of connection with the present. So this past action is really important now. So if you tell me, let's go to the cinema and watch, I don't know, Terminator 3, I say, I have seen this movie before. What's the link to the present? I don't want to go to the cinema with you. If you offer me food, I say, no, thank you, I have eaten. This means at some point in the past, I had some food. I don't want to tell you when, but the important link to the present is, I'm full now. Right now, I don't want to eat anything. You can also use it for an unfinished statement, and watch my statement video to remember what a statement is. So I can say to you, I have loved my house for the last year. I have been a teacher for a long time. All these are statements that haven't finished yet. Okay? So that's very important. Or I can use it for some kind of repetition without a time period this time, because if I have a time period, I would use past simple for the repetitions of how much and how many. But if I don't tell you when, then I would use present perfect. For example, I have had 3 cups of coffee today. The day is not over yet. I can have more if I wish. Or I can say I have been to China 3 times. I don't tell you when. So any kind of how much or how many type questions or answers, if they don't have a time period, I can use present perfect. But if they have a time period, you remember we said we use past simple. Now I can also use present perfect with superlative statements. For example, this is the best video I have ever made. You are the kindest person I have ever met. These are superlatives. The kindest, the nicest, the silliest, the best, the worst. These are superlative statements. But of course, no time period. So it's very important to remember when you use present perfect, you cannot say when anything happened. You can say for how long or since when it began, but you can never say the exact period of time. And there's always a link to the present in some way. Let's go to my second favorite, present perfect continuous. Now this one is exactly the same as present perfect simple in terms of past and present being linked. So I have been doing something. Let's see how it's different from present perfect simple. Now you remember, I told you with present perfect simple that an action finished any time in the past. But present perfect continuous, an action has recently finished. And you know this because the effect or result of that action is very clear now. For example, please excuse my messy house. I have been cooking. It means I have just now finished cooking and I didn't have time to clean up. So I'm sorry for the mess. I have been cooking or I have been baking. All right? So an action has recently finished and you see the result very clearly. And here, an action, a long action that had some duration, and usually I say for how long or since when I have been doing this, but a long, unfinished action. So before with present perfect simple, I told you that an unfinished statement goes with present perfect simple because unfinished actions go with present perfect continuous. And of course, there is a link to the present always. So present perfect, whether it's simple or continuous, always has some kind of link to the present. Now, let's test ourselves. Here you have, and I'll bring you closer, a little bit closer. Okay, you have a small test. I want you to pause the video, complete the test, and when you're ready, press play to see the answers. Now press pause. All right, now we're ready to see the answers. Let's go. Check your answers. I hope you did really well, and I hope this video really helped you because we always talk about the past and we must always use the correct tenses. Good luck.